27 million people worldwide are victims of human trafficking. 27% of them are children. A recent bombshell New York Times investigation, ignored by most of the mainstream media, found more than 250,000 immigrant children have entered the United States in the past 2 years, most to provide the country with cheap labor. Well, this week, a key domestic policy advisor in the Biden administration, Lora Ries, announced she's stepping down from her job on May 26th. The reason? It may have to do with that New York Times child abuse revelation. Well, joining us with more is Lora Ries, former Deputy Chief of Staff at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and a research fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Lora, thanks for being with us. So this New York Times report says more than 250,000 immigrant children have been forced to work as laborers in violation of child labor laws. What more can you tell us?
Yes, I remember when Democrats used to care about child labor. But when you look at the nationwide numbers, Customs and Border Protection reports over 371,000 unaccompanied alien children have been encountered just so far. And Lora Ries wrote some truth in her personal handwritten notes when she was in a meeting about unaccompanied alien children, when she wrote that it was Biden administration's open border policies that are enticing parents to self-separate and send their children across the border unaccompanied. So yes, she is leaving, and the radical left are cheering about it when it comes to the open border, which is frightening given how much damage they've already done and what more they seek to achieve.
So she was actually opposing this policy, and that's why she's leaving. So the Mexican cartels are also involved in trafficking children for sex. Worldwide, nearly 79% of child trafficking is for forced child prostitution. So how many of those migrant kids do you think are suffering that type of abuse right here in the United States?
Well, we don't know, but we have to assume it is a large number. And frankly, one is too many. But the left keeps pushing these policies of sending unaccompanied alien children across the border because they are, frankly, building an illegal immigration system on the backs of children. They entice the children to come across the border, to have their parents send them that way, and then shower them with immigration benefits. And then in a few years, today's UACs become tomorrow's dreamers. And the left will demand that we give green cards to this population because they crossed as unaccompanied children. Well, yes, that's how the left designed it. It is perverse. It is exploitation. And there is no reason the left should be able to defend this policy.
Well, it's not only Lora Ries as domestic policy director, but what about DHS Secretary Mayorkas and Vice President Kamala Harris? They're in charge of the southern U.S. border and immigration issues. So what is their responsibility in all of this, and why are they not doing more to stop it?
Well, it's one of the many reasons Secretary Mayorkas deserves to be impeached. But what he says is we are taking it to the cartels where they are. And yet he's the one flaming the fire. So he can't say we're going after the arsonists when he himself is one. It just is not credible. It is inhumane. And frankly, this section of the law needs to be repealed from the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, so-called. And the groups that help the government process this and transport these people all over the country, the NGOs, including the faith-based organizations, these operations need to be defunded. Federal grant money should not be going to these groups to help this perverse smuggling and trafficking system.
Okay, you worked at DHS, so how much of this open border policy resulting in human trafficking, guns, drug running, is driven by corrupt politicians and officials on both sides of the border?
Well, certainly corruption is involved. There is a lot of money to be made in this. And you know, as we speak, the House Homeland Security Committee is debating a bill to secure the border and calling for these NGO open border operations to be defunded. And boy, the left is just hollering about that language, including the faith-based organizations, because it's $1 billion industry for them.
So why do you think it's been 40 years since we've had real immigration reform?
Well, frankly, there are many who don't want to truly solve the problem. They want the issue to continue to bat around like a piñata. And all it does is it endangers Americans and it endangers the migrants themselves. Any sovereign nation deserves a lawful and an orderly and a manageable immigration system. The U.S. is no exception. And yet this administration has set a lot of historic records, and unfortunately, they're all bad.
Okay, I'm sure this will be a big issue in the 2024 election season. Lora Ries of the Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Laura, for providing those insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.